Warm greetings, friends. Thanks for joining. Really, thank you all. So if we all just take a moment to refreshen and really reconnect to our motivation of Bodhichitta, and really try to strongly bring out this wish that what we're doing now, reflecting on the teachings and putting them into practice, that this very moment and this time together becomes the cause of the happiness and enlightenment of all beings everywhere. So we'll just refresh that motivation and that view just for a few moments. So there's a single moment that we're all heading towards, and that's the moment of dying. So Buddhists tend to not shy away from this too much because the Buddha taught so much about impermanence. And this is a very big impermanence that each of us have to go through eventually. And the real certain thing about dying for each of us is that it's going to happen soon. The older I get, which is just little by little, and when I talk with friends who are older than me, for a lot of them it seems like time passes faster as they get older. And there's a sense of where did it all go? It happens so fast. So this big disruption is coming. And we know it, kind of on the surface of our brains. We kind of have that knowledge that this time's coming, this moment's coming. And essentially, kind of what is this moment? It's really the big loss of control. Where we can't control our body, we can't control where we're at, who's around us. Sense faculties start getting jittery. And I'm no expert by any means on this moment of death. I don't know anything about it. I'm scared about it. I fear that big disruption. But the one thing the Buddha taught that was really clear about death is that same process of dissolution or dying is the very same process that's happening right now. As one moment moves into the next, as our thoughts become new thoughts, our emotions become new emotions, as the seasons change, as the days go by, as we fall asleep and then wake up, it's basically the same sequence of cause and effect happening. And in one way, we can look at this as a big problem. This constantly being disrupted, interrupted. That I'm trying to have kind of control over this experience and find some sense of happiness and a sense of purpose and well-being. And it keeps getting interrupted by life happening to me that I can't control. And then the big disruption of, oh, I can't move, oh, everything's happening, oh, everything's shutting down. Then what do I have control over then? It's my mind. That's it. And the Buddha taught this same situation is happening right now. The only thing I really have conscious control over is my mind. If I train it, if I investigate it, if I look closely at what is this awareness happening right now, what is going on in my mind? That's where there's control. We have very conscious ability to choose how we engage with this experience, this world that's really out of our control. So samsara is this process that's completely infallible, this sequence of cause and effect. And it's like a perfect, infinite machine that there's not an error. It's like infallible. But the problem is there's so many moving parts. And we only see a piece of it. And so all the things we don't see of cause and effect, they feel like we're getting hurt, or we're losing control, or we're disrupted, or what we want to happen isn't happening, or what we didn't want to happen happens. And it's because we have a little window of what we're paying attention to of this vast sequence of cause, conditions, and effects. And so you could say, like, in one way, samsara is this perfect, intricate system of cause and effect that never misses a beat. But experienced from my small view, it feels like it's uninterrupted disruptions or interruptions of what I want to happen. Again and again and again, I don't get what I want. I feel tired. I feel annoyed. The weather, it rained on my parade, whatever. Or something really bad happened. It's really very tragic. It's genuinely just heartbreaking, you know. So suffering, samsara is suffering. I mean, nowadays maybe it'd be like we could define that in a way. Samsara is traumatic. It's this endless, ongoing repetition of being hurt, being wounded, of me getting hurt. And so then the task for each of us as practitioners, if we consider ourselves practitioners, we're trying to study, contemplate, and practice as Buddhists within the Buddhist teachings, according to what the guidance of the Buddha and the lineage masters and our personal teacher. Then there's two ways we can utilize this disruption of life, of each moment becoming a new moment, and we don't know what's really going to happen. We really don't know, because we don't see big enough. We don't see enough of the causes, conditions, and effects closely enough. So we keep getting the rug pulled out from under us because we just don't see clearly enough yet. And there's two options. We can use practice to disrupt our old negative habits, or we can let our old negative habits disrupt our practice. I'm assuming that people have received some Dharma teachings before hearing this, so we have some teachings under our belts. We know some basic Buddhist fundamentals, the Four Noble Truths and Bodhichitta, and we're coming to a Ngondro session. And I mean, just there's such a wealth of Dharma teachings out there. We have all these tools. So we can use these tools, we can use these views and this system, this guidance from these sublime, immaculate beings who actually gained complete conscious attention of all causes, conditions, and effects. They became enlightened. We can use their guidance and their tools to completely disrupt our old negative habits, the habit of me against everything. And little by little, we can ease up that mistaken perception. It's not me versus everything. I'm a big part of this vast flowing system, and so are you. Each of us are. We're not against it, we're always with it. But when we take a small piece of it and try to hold on to it in a stuck, fixed way, it seems like everything's against us. So we can use these tools, these instructions, and this guidance in Ngondro practice. And each day, each moment, if we get really kind of like burn with our hair on fire to really want to use this situation to disrupt our old negative habits that keep causing us suffering, sense of being harmed, we can use this to completely interrupt and finally break through all of our old destructive habits that we ourselves have ingrained again and again and again over a long period of time. Or we can kind of use, not use the techniques and the practice and kind of like get bored with them or take them for granted or kind of just, it can become another thing we do, The practice can be another way that another badge I have, which is spiritual materialism. It can be another way that I avoid dealing with my life. We can be a bypassing thing. One more way where I'm not actually going to attend to like what's going on in me, my emotions and my thoughts. Oh, I'll just practice now and not deal with the emotion stuff that's happening. But we can avoid it, avoid our pain, avoid the suffering of samsara with practice. Or we can use our practice to actually look at the suffering. How is this working? What is going on in this moment of my mind suffering now? And we can disrupt the tense, grasping mind onto this pain and this suffering and this big drama that I have really a lot invested in. And so we're very fortunate as Buddhist practitioners. We have this in all these systems of techniques that when things really break down, we don't have to break down too. We can really break through. We can use a disruption, use an interruption. Instead of breaking down and getting more broken, we can use it to break through that sense of like, why isn't this going my way? And instead we can listen, like, what is happening now? We can really look clearly. And we can develop this ability more and more over time to this surrender, We can surrender ourselves to the teachings. So the teachings become something that we merge with little by little. Not that we have as another tool, not as just another thing happening in our life. So it becomes our life. That really try to blend our life with Dharma over time. Little by little by little, over a long period of time. Because we have a lot of old habits that we have to loosen. We have a lot of new good habits we need to cultivate. And we have a lot of relaxing to do. Don't we? Mm-hmm. I do. Because I'm constantly trying to set up the perfect thing. And then, it doesn't happen. Or I fall asleep. And then I wake up, new day, oh no, it's not over. So Dzogchen Rinpoche, he said something that was really helpful in a teaching called It Depends, years ago from New York City. He said a basic definition of a bodhisattva view is there's no finish line. We give up the idea of just wanting to be done with it all. Instead, we really curiously look at it. We try to open it up. We see, wow, this is really incredible and amazing what's happening here. And all these beings are just so hurting, aren't they? When we look out, all it is just constantly, just look in any portal of looking through the world. There's so much hurt. And people who really need support, really. There's so much distress. There's so much samsara in samsara. And we can use these teachings to break through our habits to try to avoid it all. Or to be overwhelmed by it. Or just shut down and close off. We can use the teachings to actually lean into it. This is the courageous bodhisattva view. They're little by little baby bodhisattvas. Like little bitty baby bodhisattvas. We're trying to develop our capacities for bigger view, for more courage, more strength, more laughter, more deep heartache that actually, really practically in a really grounded way says, what can I do to help? What's available to me? How can I help you? How can I relieve your suffering? Even if it's practice, right? It doesn't have to just be money. or tangible. It doesn't have to be, everything in the degenerate age now is tangible. It's very obvious. Like death. Death is big, obvious disruption. But all these micro moments of disruption, of interruption, of all these things where the ego doesn't get its way, oh, then it really doesn't get its way. And then we can break down and freak out, or we can relax and actually apply the teachings that we've been given. So that's kind of all available for us now. And there's no way around doing it little by little. Like each moment renews itself, and each moment of mind, we have the opportunity to start again, start new, be fresh. And that's disrupting these old habits. Same old, new, same old. There's nothing new under the sun. I'm little old me. This is just a big bad world. We can disrupt that and interrupt that and see it a little more clearly. So as Buddhists, we're very fortunate. We have this giant spectrum of teachings the Buddha gave, these fundamental teachings. And the thing now is we can use these tiny disruptions now, like day going into night and night going into day. These little interruptions of things happening that we don't like. Oh, I have a foot ache. Oh, I have a bad mood come up. Oh, someone said something. We can use these little things that rub us and they're like little bits of suffering. They're not so overwhelming. And then we can use that to train our mind. A little bit of a friction, and then we can, what did the Buddha say? What did my teacher say? What teachings have I received? And gradually, with these little interruptions or disruptions, we can retrain our minds. We don't need to wait for a big disruption to happen before we actually do some preparation. Right now, when it's a little easier, when a little more is on our side, we can train ourselves and open ourselves and connect to our compassion and our love and our kindness and our gratitude for these lineage teachings. So in a basic way, it says, if today is the day to die, am I ready? And we can ask ourselves that, am I ready today? And the Buddha said we should ask ourselves that. These great Zen practitioners, every night they'd clean out their eating bowl, turn it upside down, set up their surroundings so if they die that night, everything's nice and refreshed for the next person to come in and use their things. And there's no need to make a big fuss over all the loose strands they left around. They leave it clean. And we can do that with our practice, doing this Ngondro, doing regular practice, reconnecting to our motivation in simple ways that make such a big difference over time. So what are the fundamentals? If all of a sudden I never saw a Dharma book again, if all of a sudden there was no Sangha around, if all of a sudden my mind started getting a little fuzzier, can't remember the names as well, I don't really remember when that happened. This is life, right? Do I know enough Dharma that in this day, today, if I go, am I ready? So what are the fundamentals? And that's what Ngondro's all about. We put the time in to really get a supple flexibility that's really kind of rooted in there of like the fundamentals of Buddha Dharma. Foundation of Buddhism, Sutra Mahayana, Tantra Mahayana. Again and again and again and again, we touch base with these fundamentals. 4 Noble Truths, 4 mind turnings, kindness, renouncing causes of suffering. Sutra Mahayana, it's Bodhichitta, relative Bodhichitta, 4 boundless thoughts, 6 paramita practices, absolute Bodhichitta, lack of intrinsic inherent existence, going beyond all conceptual designations and limitations. Tantra Mahayana, pure perception, devotion, deep abiding close feeling to the lineage, to the teaching, to the teachers, to the Buddha, to the Dharma, to the Sangha. A deep trust in ourselves, Vajra pride, a complete certainty conviction that this is good. I am good, you are good, this is workable. And then in more tantric scenario or kind of languaging, there's nothing to be done. is nothing to be fixed. It is all completely achieved. It's done. There's no fire to put out. This utter, resolute conviction in the purity of everything. I don't have any of these fundamentals, but these are basic fundamentals. We've heard them so many times from our very kind and precious, amazing, extraordinary teachers. And in their book, Illuminating the Path, in His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche, Jidor Yeshe Dorje's book, on a torch lighting the way to freedom, all these Ngondro instructions, we have them right at our fingertips and we can utilize them. These fundamentals are, really, all these masters have just repeated these time and again, and it's what they'll keep repeating. Fundamental means essential. So like when things get shaky and something gets disrupted and something gets interrupted, what are the fundamentals? Because if it's not just, if emotionally or if like in a more kind of intuitive or embodied sense, if I'm not yet in a flexible, relaxed state that's not fight, flight, freeze or whatever, but is more like, ooh, something new. If I haven't yet developed that kind of training, which I haven't, then cognitively, conceptually, intellectually, according to a study and contemplation, intellectual, what are the frameworks that I really need to reactivate now? If I'm freaking out, what are the basics? Because the Buddha taught all of them. And I just went through as a quick list, and like we'll hear, hopefully if we're so fortunate, years and years and years more on these teachings, unpacking them and connecting with one another to really bring these alive, to light ourselves up with these same fundamental teachings. Bodhichitta, renunciation, pure perception. Every time a teaching begins, same fundamentals, just like Lama Laia said last week. Same fundamentals. We need to have them become so rote, so habitual, that it's just like we're right and ready. Something bad happens, we don't know what to do, they're right there. Like as practitioners, we really need to kind of take that on as a challenge. What are the fundamentals, even just intellectually? That right now, if I die today, bring this to my mind, connect in this way, release this, let go of that, forgive, relax. And then we apply them. And that's what we're doing all of these sessions. A beautiful thing of Buddha Dharma is it's an entire system that has all these fundamentals that work together. And as our mind opens up and refines, the system opens up and refines. And in the end, the system dissolves itself. In the end, we become the Dharma. The Dharma is not there, and we're here. The Dharma is how we are, because that's what the nature is, because eventually we're just natural, and we go with it. We don't need a system anymore once we become fully natural or enlightened. So in the meantime, on the path, there's all these steps. And step one of this Ngondro path, of course we have to turn our mind to be interested in these things. It was so kind, the Buddha said, there's a problem here. Suffering. That was so kind of the Buddha. So many people don't admit the problem. It's so refreshing to hear an honest, straightforward admission. Something's really wrong, you know. What can I do? Oh, then he says all these things we can do. What can I rely on? Whatever change happens, change. What can I rely on? What is the reliable refuge? What will protect my baby Bodhichitta? Because I need to protect my little cute, sweet baby Bodhichitta. Mm-hmm. It's so little cute, baby Bodhichitta, but it's such a little baby. And that needs to be touched. It needs to be cared for and fed properly. And it needs to go to bed on time and all the things. It needs regularity. It needs protection. It needs security. Not in a sense of exclusivity. Oh, this is the only path. Oh, this is the best path. Oh, my way is the right way. Nothing like that. But for me right now, for my little tiny baby Bodhichitta, oh, this is what it really needs to be soothed, to be encouraged, to be challenged just enough that it can take on, that it can grow, that it can learn to adapt. This system keeps correcting itself. Right? Rinpoche said the other day. What is the Dharma? To correct. to hold ourselves, in one way, and this is just, I'm extrapolating, to hold ourselves accountable. We are fundamentally good. This situation is workable. I have so much to offer the world, and so do you, and so do all of us, and we need to help each other, and we need to learn from each other, and we need to work together. And we can use this, all this imbalance, the fragility of samsara, we can use this to our advantage to completely break through this habitual mind that keeps obsessing over what it can't control. And so it looks out and looks out and looks out. And just, I forget to look, what's my mind? My mind, what is my awareness doing now? I have full conscious capacity to change its direction now, to actually go for refuge in something reliable. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Turn my mind towards that, and then to keep looking. Not just look once or look a few times, or look and then feel like I've looked enough and then forget, and then just take for granted and gloss over it, but to keep it fresh and active. This contemplation, different masters have said this, study, contemplation, wisdom of meditation, study, contemplation, meditation. For a lot of us, the one that's the most weak is contemplation. We start with saying, I don't know, help me, I want to learn. So we study, we receive teachings, we hear, we listen. We want to get to the point in meditation where we have a clear conviction of a fresh wakefulness, regardless of what's happening. That's certainty wisdom. That's what we're aiming for. That's what each session we try to we dissolve the refuge tree into ourselves, and we just try to abide in complete certainty wisdom of the nature. That's what every session undoes itself, and we just are left free and easy and open and fresh. The toolbox dissolves itself into what's natural. But in the meantime, on the path, we really have to keep testing it, keep trying it, keep looking, keep unpacking, keep opening, keep engaging it, keep making it a lived experience, this contemplation. Because when really big disruptions happen, and this is the age of disruptions, it's the degenerate age. It's just one of those really heartbreaking things. It doesn't get better until Buddha Maitreya comes. It gets more narrow-minded. But we don't have to follow that current. More fighting. We don't have to do that. More weapons. We don't have to do that. More competitiveness that doesn't think twice about someone else. We can love, and we have compassion, and we can really free ourselves. We can use this really strong catch that happens in our mind, and I'm wrapping up now. This strong catch that happens in our mind that Vajrayana is based on, a total disruption of our normal habitual mind. And the really good thing about disruption is it allows for a gap. Something unknown happens, we didn't expect it, and instead of immediately pushing against it, we can be in the gap. Mind the gap. And we can use that fresh openness, the fresh wakefulness, as our practice. And we have this whole system of techniques, including this Dudjom Tersar Ngondro, including all these Lojong mind training slogans that are so easy to memorize that we can just have ready to bring out when adversity happens. We can really just have them. We don't need 1,000. We need 5. We need 3. We need 1. We need Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And we really need to keep utilizing them, keep seeing the richness that they offer. And then until we really get refined and we start to really blend with Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha more. We don't doubt it so much. We see that it works as everything's falling apart. We see this is reliable. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. My mind has Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in it. Outside, there's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And we always have both. This always available, reliable refuge for all of us if we just turn our minds toward it. And we do that with practice. We do that with study. And we do that with contemplation. So I say that kind of just as really basic reminder myself. This is all basically me just projecting all my things I need to do out into a my voice, just saying to Dragpa, this is really what you need to do. And it is. And I know it is. And so there's the rub. I know the steps that need to be taken in Khenpo Tsewang Rinpoche and Khenpo Tsewang Dongyal Rinpoche. They really said that clearly years ago. In the Pema Mandala interview, they're going through Longchenpa's 5 strengths of a practitioner. They said at that time, we know the problem isn't that we don't have enough knowledge. The problem is we're a little weak with practice. We don't apply it so much. And so what are the ways that we can actually kind of like apply the teaching? What are the fundamentals? We have to know it. Then we have to really keep trying to taste them, try them out, apply them, and let it change us. And then we won't see disruptions and interruptions and kind of as being such a threat or something we don't like, but more as an opportunity to connect even more with Dharma and become the Dharma more. Thank you.
Thank you.